I've been dying to make this video for so long, but I just haven't had a camera to use to show off what 2560 by 1080 looks like on 3440 by 1440, because it's not the kind of thing that you can just show a video of, like, your desktop of. You need to see it from a third-person perspective. So with this pretty damn good camera, I'm hoping with some pictures, I don't think the video is really going to be up for it, but with some pictures you'll be able to see the difference between native 1440p on a monitor and what it looks like when you put 1080p on that screen, because it's not exactly a terrible experience, but there is noticeable blurring. So the question is, why am I talking about this? So obviously a lot of people want to get a 3440 by 1440 screen because of the fact that the higher resolution is just so much more beautiful, it's far better for productivity, gaming looks better, and just plain everything just looks crisper on the screen. Especially when you're talking about a 34-inch monitor. At lower monitor sizes it doesn't matter so much, but when you're getting a much larger screen you need those pixels to make sure things don't get oversized and just uncomfortably big. But the issue is, as most of us will know, running 3440 by 1440 in gaming is damn hard. I just did a video explaining what GPU for 21x9, and we basically concluded that the best GPU for 3440 by 1440 is a 1080 Ti, which is an insanely expensive graphics card. So yeah, it takes a lot to power this resolution. So when this comes around, people want to buy one monitor, and they want a 1440p monitor, but at the same time they don't have a GPU, maybe they can't afford it or whatever, they don't have a GPU that can run that resolution for gaming. So they think, well, why can't I run 2560 by 1080 on that 1440p screen? What would it look like? Because this way it's far easier to run the game, and then they can bump up their graphics settings far higher. Because I would still say that ultra graphics settings at 1080p looks far better than lowest graphics settings at 1440p. It just makes sense, there's more stuff on screen, even if it is just not as crisp. But the issue is, 2560 by 1080 is not a direct derivative of 3440 by 1440. For example, where 1920 by 1080, so 16:9, can go into 3840 by 2160, 16:9, it goes in exactly 4 times. So for every single pixel at the 1080p version, you get 4 pixels at the 4K version. It's really easy and it works perfectly. But when talking about 1440p, we're talking about an 80% increase in pixels over 1080p, not 400%. And this means that you can't directly put 1 pixel into 1 or 2 or 3 extra pixels. So you get this issue where you're getting 1 pixel represented by a varying number of pixels at 1440p. And this is what causes the blurriness. But the point is, this blurriness isn't too bad. It's still noticeable, don't get me wrong, but it is usable. I've played like this before when I had a weaker graphics card, and that's why it's a talking point, because people want to know, is it a genuinely viable option? And really, you're not going to like the answer, but it comes down to personal preference. It comes down to what you personally feel is an acceptable amount of blurriness. I personally can deal with it when it's a game that I've played a ton of, so maybe it's like Battlefield I'm going back to and I've already played like 50 hours, and I don't care that it's a bit blurry because I've already seen what the game looks like crisp. And also I know that at some point in the future I'll get that graphics card that can run it at full native resolution, and so I'll get to experience the full glory of it then. But there will be those people, and it's totally acceptable, that just can't deal with any of the blurriness. And so, yeah, it comes down to the thing, I want to try and show you without you guys having to go and find a monitor and run 1080p on a 1440p screen just so you can try it yourself. I hope that these photos can at least give you an idea of what you're coming up against. I'm hoping what you can see is that at 2560 by 1080, you just don't quite get that same crispness. It's just kind of like a blurry sheen over the top of it. And you should get the point that 2560 by 1080 on a 3440 by 14 panel isn't as crisp as just 2560 by 1080 on a native 1080p screen, because those pixels are blurring. It's not like, oh, it's a higher resolution screen, so it'll be still a bit crisper than 1080, but it just won't be as crisp as 1440. No, I'm afraid it's actually less crisp than both. Now, you should also be aware that there are just tiny black bars on the sides when doing this 1080p on 1440, because 2560 by 1080 isn't exactly the same aspect ratio as 3440 by 1440, even though we all just round them to 21:9. There's a slight variation variation. So I don't like black bars, but I can deal with these black bars. But again, something to watch out for. Anyway, I'll leave you with some pictures so you can make up your own mind. And remember, if you want anything 21x9 or gaming or tech related, then head over to my channel page or the WideAsFcuk website, and I'm sure there'll be something of interest there. If not, then leave a comment down below with what you'd like to see and I'll try and cover it. And if you'd like to support the channel, the links to my Patreon page are in the description, and Amazon affiliate links are there too. See you later.